Well, I appreciate it, Noah. Thanks for those compliments. And as I told you when I saw you, you have a very pretty girlfriend, so I can't be the highlight of your week. At least I hope I'm not.
Spicy.
Well, how's the pen working? You held on to it and it's working well?
I'd much rather do voice to text, which a dinosaur like me, after all these years, has finally discovered how resourceful voice to text is, to just stand there and say things into my phone, because I do kind of speak for a living. But I'd much rather do that. But you can't have your cell phones out. I understand that. So my chicken scratch, I think I always got used in handwriting and in conduct in school. But I appreciate it. The pen is very sturdy. It's adequate. It is working and getting me through camp. So thanks for the donation.
Mightier than the sword, JD.
What's that?
Mightier than the sword.
Yeah. Well, you know what? One time I tried a pun on an LSU player. The Greg pen is mightier than the sword.
No. Make it out the writer's room?
You know what? I don't think I ever hit send on that. I think I kept it.
I
kept it locked. So anyway, yeah. But and real quick, I wanted to say this while I was on today. This is sincere. I really appreciate Brian Kelly letting us watch as much practice as he does, because I got here in 2001, and from Nick Saban through Les Miles through Ed Ogeron, really, you go out there, you see a toss dive to Leonard Fournette against air. You see some guys hitting some sleds, and then they throw you out in 5-10 minutes, and people ask you, how's the team look? And you're like, I don't know, because you already see anything. So in this regard, at least we get to see like 7-on-7, 11-on-11. You see guys making plays offensively, defensively, and it really does give you a much better taste of what's going on. And I'm sure there's some guy out there that's like, you guys shouldn't be allowed to see nothing, you media folk. Get out, that kind of. I'm sure there's a few guys out there, but I really don't think that there's anything that we've seen or can share that's going to help anybody over at Clemson or the opposition or war secrets or any of those things. Charles Hannegriff famously said that college football coaches are more paranoid than drug dealers, and I believe that, because they're very hypersensitive about information, but Coach Kelly's let us watch a lot of stuff, and I appreciate that.
Well, and I feel like if they're building their scouting report around our fall camp takeaways, then maybe have some other things they need to focus on.
Probably so, and we're not allowed to shoot a whole lot of video. Yesterday we shot, I think, 10 minutes of stuff, and typically it's like 3 periods of cameras allowed to shoot stuff. So we're not really capturing a whole lot of stuff. And, LSU themselves tweets out video of highlights from practices to get the fans excited. So, yeah, I think that on one hand, I do know that these days coaches and assistant coaches, sometimes the first thing they do, I've seen it, they go to YouTube and they watch press conferences and they try to find bulletin board material to pump up their players or coaches or whatever, fan base, red meat for them. But at the same time, I think that, Clemson's not going to really get a whole lot of information from us that's meaningful.
Definitely. Well, I want to get you started just on the fall camp front. What are some of your overarching takeaways as we've gone through kind of a week and a half of watching them work? Obviously, got to see some 11-on-11 and 7-on-7 stuff, like you said. What are some of the things that you've taken away from seeing the Tigers on the field thus far?
Well, I would agree with Coach Kelly in the fact that they've got 8 quality, high-performing SEC wide receivers. You look, and the second you start talking about 2 or 3, then there's 2 or 3 that, we need to talk about them. Out of sight, out of mind. Aaron Anderson's not even practicing, and he was the leading receiver in both catches and yards a year ago. And then, yesterday, you just look around like a guy like Barry and Brown. He catches a short ball in the flat and just kind of separates with his speed from the defense. At one point, I'm standing there looking at Nick Anderson and Trey'Dez Green lined up standing side by side, and it's a freak show, of athleticism there. I realize Trey'Dez is a tight end technically, but he's an extension of the wide receivers. Kyle Parker, he caught that bomb against UCLA in Tiger Stadium last year. He looks 100% healthy the way he catches and separates. Chris Hilton is your returner, who every time he's played, he's been a problem for the defense. The problem is he hasn't played a whole lot. Hopefully he stays healthy. Back to Anderson again. He's your big target. He's 6'4". They run him across the middle to the sideline, and then Destin. It's Hill, right? Destin
Yes.
Hill. The catches he's made, and I mean that guy's chiseled. He's like a walking muscle. I mean it's incredible the way that guy looks as a wide receiver. So the wide receivers look all great, and I think Nussmeier looks great throwing the ball. Nothing has changed with him in terms of there's no throw he can't make. There's no defensive coordinator that says give him this because he can't make the throw. The ball still comes out electric. I think he's taking care of his body. His physique looks probably as best as it's been as far as nutrition and training and all that. But football teams are not built from the outside in. They're built from the inside out. And so you're hearing mixed reviews about this offensive line and how they're doing. Caden Durham broke a 45-yard touchdown run at the end of practice yesterday. But outside of that, what did they do the rest of the time? It kind of reminds me of the Alabama game last year. If you remember in that game, he broke a 45, 48-yard run very early in the game. LSU got on the goal line there in the south end zone, didn't score a touchdown, and I think they finished with 104 yards rushing, and Durham had that 48-yard run. So they need more consistency out of their rushing attack. I think, the offensive line, I'm not breaking any news here, but it's amazing to see how big these guys are. I mean, Brad Davis is the positions coach. This guy played offensive line at Oklahoma and won a national championship 25 years ago, but he is a dwarf next to these guys. I mean, they're 6'7", 6'5", they're huge, but obviously they need to block better and do a better job up front, because that's the biggest matchup in this first game going to Clemson. You're not be able to hear yourself think. It's going to be a loud atmosphere, and Clemson's obviously got a lot of defensive talent that's going to be coming after Garrett Nussmeier. So, your Weston Davises and your Tyree Adams and those guys, how well do they step in and take this thing over? I think that's the biggest question mark, because obviously the offensive line has not gotten fantastic reviews. And then another thing, I understand that Garrett Nussmeier needs to run more, but I am not like one of those guys that walked away from last year saying, well, the reason why LSU didn't reach their goals is because Garrett Nussmeier didn't run more. I just think that has been some people just beating that drum. Yes, if you're a defense, you need LSU, he needs to pull the ball sometimes to keep the defense honest. But I don't know if you guys have watched the backup quarterbacks. They have not completed a ton of passes out there.
Right.
And so we don't need to get Garrett Nussmeier hurt running the football. So can he run more? Yes. Does he need to run a ton more? And Garrett Nussmeier needs to run so we can win. No, I don't think that's the recipe to do what you want to do. If you want to talk, I'm rambling here, but then, we can talk about the defense and the way Harold Perkins has looked and some of those things as well. I mean, I think Harold Perkins is this big, we've been talking about Harold Perkins a lot for 3 years. And sometimes, I wonder, obviously he came in like a house of fire as a freshman. He was a huge reason they beat Ole Miss at home. Huge reason why they beat Alabama at home. Huge reason, probably the biggest reason they beat Arkansas on the road the week after they beat Alabama when the LSU offense didn't show up, stuck in the deep freeze. He had 4 sacks. They took one away after the game to give him 3 sacks. That was, I don't know what happened there, but without him, they don't win that game. And then it seemed like opposing defenses or opposing offenses learned how to scheme for him a little bit better, take him out of plays. He's not that big. And then 2023, is he being played out of position? And I mean, his numbers were still kind of the same as 2022, but he just didn't feel like he was as impactful. Last year, he plays 4 games. He doesn't have a quarterback sack, and then he gets injured. So sometimes when I hear best in the country and this and that, I'm kind of wondering, are we just repeating what everyone says, or if there's validity to that? But when we go out and watch him, I think it was Monday, he had the interception on the 7-on-7 with Nussmeier. He's rushing up to the line to make all these tackles on the quick passes to Bauer, Sharp, and those guys. So he was everywhere the other day. So he looks great. And so hopefully that continues as well.
You mentioned you don't have to have Nussmeier be able to run it the way that, like that's not the reason LSU won or lost the game. And I agree with you in that regard. And also you said you wanted to keep him healthy, which I also agree with. But I didn't have that same sentiment maybe going into 2019 with Joe Burrow, and he always was able to find a way to run. And it didn't seem like maybe it's just Ed Orgeron and his kind of cavalier attitude to not protect the quarterback. Or I'm just wondering if you have that same mentality with Nussmeier. Like, if this is where we want to get to where we want to go, if you're LSU, at some point, Nussmeier, you do have to run it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, to your point, we can't play with fear, right? Every time you have fear doing anything.
Well, I didn't like when Swan came out, that's for sure.
Well, Lloyd, you remember 2019, I think it was Auburn. Remember when Burrow carried and he got
walloped?
Yeah, I thought he was going to be decapitated. I mean, they hit him so hard, and I was like, oh, God, there goes the season, And
well, the
Burrow,
game got weird after that.
Yeah, well, Burrow, to his credit, I mean, he was like Gumby or something. He just always would get up and trot back to the huddle. I'm like, oh, my God. I mean, if Burrow goes out, and no offense to Miles Brennan, who played some good football at LSU, the season's not the same. And and you talk about Burrow running, and I don't want to be speaking out both sides of my mouth, but I was talking to a fan about this or somebody the other day about when LSU beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa in 2019, what were the big plays down the stretch? It was Burrow faking and keeping and running, for a lot of key yardage. I think he only ran for 65 yards in the game, but those were 65 huge yards, including down the stretch. I think it was his Heisman moment where he gets up and he points first down when they were milking the clock there. So, yes, I think that I mean, Brian Kelly said that Garrett runs 21 miles an hour and runs a 4.45 or something like that. I'm not sure about all that, but certainly.
Are they not athletically not that different? Like Garrett Nussmeier has the ability to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I was looking back. I think he ran for a touchdown. I mean, it was the South Alabama game. I think they did some things in the spring. It wasn't a spring game, spring scrimmage, where they had some plays for him where he ran the ball up the middle and so forth. So, yeah, I think it's easy for us in the press box when he's rolling out to see all the green grass and yell, run, run, run. But I think those are the things that he needs to do. And also it goes back to Brian Kelly's comments that he made at the first press conference. I think it was a band called The Fix in the 80s. They had a song, Saved by Zero. And Brian Kelly said his worst play needs to be zero, meaning, don't do the Texas A&M thing. When you roll to your left, throw back to your right across the middle, throw a pick, and it changes the complexity of the game. With a guy like Nussmeier, it's give and take. He's going to make some amazing throws. He's going to make some passes that are going to be picked because of the way he plays. But instead of throwing that pick, run for 5 yards or run for 2, get out of bounds, stay away from the big turnover.
Yeah, and like you talked about with the offensive line, and we were talking about earlier, it's obviously a bit of a catch-22. Dang it!
Yes!
A bit of a catch-22, as you've got the O-line versus the D-line. It's kind of you versus you, and the O-line has struggled. But obviously the defensive line has stood out with a guy like Bernard Gooden. What have you seen specifically from that group and number 88 himself?
No dump button, Jacques.
Hey, that's okay. Y'all play by different rules over there. That's fine.
No FCC guidelines.
Oh, FUCK?
I got fussed at years ago for saying snot on the air. So you guys just pull the trigger whatever you want to say. Yeah, Bernard is he's listed at 6'1", 268. So he really isn't an undersized guy playing right there on the nose or right there down on the defensive line, and he's been a problem. 88 has been getting to the backfield and making plays. Now, is that a reflection of his talent? He played at South Florida last year. I think he had 10 tackles for loss and maybe a sack and a half. So he made some plays over there and at that level of football. Or is it a reflection of LSU's offensive line not doing a good job? I'm not sure, but certainly he's been a big part of what they're doing. Patrick Payton was in the backfield a lot. The first couple of days we went number 6, rushing the passer. You got the Weeks brothers there at linebacker along with Perkins. It appears that Monsieur Delane is one corner. Ashton Stamps, kind of hard to believe he's already a junior, but he is. And so The defensive line, I mean, it's great to see Jacoby and Guillory out there. What a tough injury, he had in the second game of last year. We waited his turn to be kind of a team leader, a captain, so to speak, and he gets hurt. And so he's been out there and playing and looks good. So Dominic McKinley back for his sophomore year. Still a very young kid. I remember talking to Kyle Williams at the spring game and him telling me that, he's still 19 years old at the time. So, and then Ahmad Bro and some others. But, I think that for every positive play an offensive or defensive player makes, you're excited about it. And then you wonder, okay, is somebody blowing it on the other side? So that's what you kind of wonder about when you watch scrimmage action.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I think one of the things that stood out from the practice earlier in the week, I think it was Mondays, where it felt like the competitive energy and the intensity has been raised at this camp. Not that it hasn't been competitive, intense in the past, obviously, but it really felt like that practice specifically. We got out there, we watched 7-on-7 and then 11-on-11, and they were chirping, they were getting chippy, and it just felt like that competitive energy and that fire was really there. What's the energy been like from your standpoint watching them at practice?
Well, no, I think they always say it all comes down from the top, right? And I think that Brian Kelly has been as salty and as animated as he's been in any camp so far. And like you just said, not that he was sleepwalking before, but heading down the stretch of last season, when they had their 3-game losing streak and the grumbling, and Vanderbilt throws the touchdown on their first drive and people are booing, and even had some students wearing bags over their heads, which was ridiculous. They were whatever they were, a few losses, not a Curly Hallman team, but the atmosphere around here was getting pretty
tenuous.
Salt. Yes, it was. You could feel the tension in the air. And they kind of stabilized themselves with the 3-game winning streak to close out, but still a disappointing year. And so, Brian Kelly goes to the podium and says, we're taking receipts. We'll see you at the national championship. And so I think he's even a guy that's got a 10-year contract that's basically 100% guaranteed, and no matter what's going to be pretty well off after coaching at LSU. I think that his professionalism and his ability, his desire to want to achieve as a head coach is really coming through. I think he's heard it in the off season from fans and boosters and donors. Scott Woodward, no different than usual, has been at a lot of practices and standing around. They bump their, Kelly makes the $1 million pledge, and then 1,600 LSU fans bump it to $3.3 million to support the roster. Austin Thomas back, and so I think that Kelly has been animated. You see him kind of barking at assistants. You see him barking at the team. We had a young man on the offensive line, two-hand spike his helmet yesterday after Garrett Nussmeier was sacked. Jack Marucci immediately tried to resuscitate the helmet. I'm not sure if he was successful on that or not.
It's the first time he's failed.
Yeah, exactly. It was so funny. The kid throws the helmet down, and Marucci just scrambles immediately, is working on the helmet, and there's Kelly, and Kelly's talking to him. You can't do that. Don't throw your helmet. But you see the intensity, and yeah, to your point, the offensive and defensive lines really getting after each other. Good competition. Iron sharpens iron, as Jacoby and Guillory told us Saturday. So hopefully it all plays into a winning product. But it's just this storyline of this team could be really, really good and still start 0-1, and that's what you're just kind of worried about. And there are people that gripe and say, why are we playing Clemson first game? But you got to keep in mind this game was set up 8 years ago, and at the time you started hearing fans gripe about, we don't like all these neutral site games being played in Arlington and Houston, Green Bay. We want games in Tiger Stadium, and so to do that you have to go to Clemson for them to come here. And so the timing of it now, after you haven't won a season opener since 2019, is a lot of people saying we shouldn't be playing this game, and Verge Osbury isn't doing his job. And so that's tough for Verge when he's trying to, schedule the best he can. But these things are not baseball schedules; they're not done 6 months in advance.
Yeah, and then you do the Texas game, and then you don't get the home and home return because there was a pandemic or whatever that was, as we are still unfurling information. But I digress.
Well, and Lloyd, not to interrupt, but you go back 20 years ago. Can you believe Katrina's 20 years ago this August? But 20 years ago, LSU goes to Arizona State. They never returned that game. They never came back. So LSU's been had bad luck with a couple of these. But go ahead.
No. Well, I think that was also another. You talk about national crises. That would be one again. That was a hurricane where you have to go there, and then they never return. That was supposed to be a home game.
Right.
And then,
home game,
and then they never
2,000 miles away.
Yeah, and then they never. You don't get another one on the back end at any point, or a bye week. They just were like, "Oh, tough titties for LSU," like one of the best teams they've ever had, and it's like you don't get to play. Just good luck. Go play 15 games in a row.
Yeah, that was you talk about 2005. Yeah, they were supposed to play North Texas and then Arizona State, both at home. North Texas got bumped to late in the year, and then LSU had to go 2,000 miles into the desert to play Arizona State after the Hurricanes.
Could LSU just have not made North Texas happen, like pay them whatever to have not come here and have a bye week? But I digress. Like I said, all things that would lead to maybe another national championship. But I do want to comment on and compliment, because I love the content you put out. You got some great video of LSU at the food bank. And I don't know if it's me looking too much into it, but I do think this is starting to pick up a little bit of steam. Maybe it's the LSU baseball team, where people are starting to realize like the camaraderie and the chemistry of what happens off the field has a major impact. And I think you kind of highlighted some of that with what you saw at the food bank, because it made you want to be able to go do that and be a part of the team. And I think even somebody from the food bank hopped in the dance line. Like, do you think that actually does play a part in what people consider for LSU and like what they can accomplish? Because I do. I read a lot into that.
Yeah, well, let me just say this. This time of year, whether we're interviewing a high school team or a college team, they are going to tell you this is the closest team I've ever been on. This team really likes one another. This team does things outside of football. We go eat hamburgers, or we go bowling, or we go to Topgolf, or whatever. And they all say that this time of year. They're all working hard. They're all lifting weights. They're all running. And they're all committed.
The best shape of their life.
The best shape of their lives. It's like the musician who puts out the album. This is the best album I've ever done. This is the best work I've ever done. So you hear that from everybody, and that's not a complaint or an insult. That's just reality. But you do sense, like at the food bank function the other day, that they were happy to be there, that they were finding ways to make the charity time fun. I mean, I think they got to work and they got that stuff done. I mean, they packed those 47,000 pounds of food in less than an hour, and they were in and out and got the work done. So, when they started going in that little dance line around the food bank, and then, the food bank people, they started, there's a white guy who's about 65. He breaks into a dance, and they all cheer him on, and it's good. It's wholesome content.
Yes.
Yeah.
65.
Oh. Yeah, exactly. I'll be 50 in a year and a half. That just blows my mind. But yeah, time gets away from us all. So anyway, yeah, there was some. It was a good event. They've done it every year that Brian Kelly's been here, and so that was it's their Sunday off. They weren't practicing, and they made good use of that time. So yeah, I mean, and that's what you would always circle back to the 2019 team. This was before the transfer portal really kicked in. People always say Joe Burrow transferred to LSU. That is correct, but he was a graduate transfer. He was not transfer portal. I hate it when people get that wrong, but that's the case. But that team that's before all the NIL and so forth, and you just wonder if a team like that's ever going to be put together again. Maybe it is, but that much talent, and they truly just wanted to play football. Steve Insminger would say that over and over again. I just want to play football. Just want to play. This is all I want to do. So that was the thing, and it was the only thing. Joe Burrow could have gotten himself into a lot of trouble. He was concentrated on winning football games, and so, yeah, I think it's important. Obviously, when you lose the first game, what happens after you lose the first game, especially in an era where we've got shows like this one, we've got Facebook, we've got all these Twitter, we've got all these social media accounts where people don't go there to be positive most of the time. And how do you keep away from that stuff and keep your mind on what you're doing? So, but yes, it does seem like there's a good vibe out there. I felt it on the first day, and I tweeted something about it. And I don't know how many games they're going to win, but it's hard to describe. But the first day of practice, I could just kind of sense something in the air that these guys might be pretty good. But offensive line needs to block.
That's true. And granted, also they do. But I do I'm going to double down on this because like you said, that you didn't feel that in 2024. And you can hear them talk about it where it's like we weren't together. Same thing with LSU baseball. It's like had to kind of figure it out as how to maybe become a team, and then they do, and then you can see it it manifests itself on the field. So don't discredit yourself for what you put out there, and stick to your take, Jacques. That's a real thing that I think we're both seeing, and whenever you see it happen, it does manifest itself on the field.
Yeah, well, I think most people who watch and consume what I put out, I'm not hot take. I'm not trying to get a bunch of clicks. I'm not trying to just.
That's what my Twitter bag.
What's that?
I just want your Twitter bag.
Exactly. Yeah. I waited 4 months for it, to get it back. So I don't plan on losing it again. Hopefully, but yeah, I mean, it just something that I sensed that day, and so we'll see how it all plays out. But I think that when you are investing as much as you're investing in this program, and there's 12 teams making the playoff, LSU should be one of the teams that makes it in. Just like LSU, with all the athletes that they have, should be able to find a guy to catch a punt in the air and run it back. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday, Wilson Alexander. We were fair catching punts, and it's like all these athletes, we can't find one to do the two-step catch and run. So yeah, I think it's time for them to take that next step. The schedule, I mean, although they do not play Georgia and Texas, you look at the preseason rankings. Billy Napier has pulled himself back from the cliff at Florida. They're in the top 20. They're number 17. South Carolina, number 13. I mean, there are a lot of ranked teams on this LSU schedule. Nothing new there, but a lot for them to navigate moving forward. It does remind me, I think I told you all the other day, 2018, LSU started the year against Miami. He was in the top 10. They played that game in Arlington. Then LSU came home and played Southeastern, and then had to go to Auburn, who was in the top 10. And you're looking at that saying, man, we could be 1-2 if we're not careful, and the season go off the rails. They won all three, and really, if they're not screwed in the final game at Texas A&M in 7 overtimes, they're 10-2 in the regular season. And in today's environment, that would put you in the playoff. And so if they can do something like that again, I think fans would be happy.
Definitely. Well, JD, we appreciate you.
Feels forever away.
Yeah, I know it does.
Do you remember when Joe Burrow called an audible and everybody freaked out?
Let's see. He called an audible. Well, I do know
the
that
run play.
Nick Brossette's 50-yard run against Miami.
Yes.
Yeah. I do remember that because Nick talked about it because, I think that's a great story. And, in today's climate with Nick Brosette have hit the transfer portal. He stuck around. He ran for 1,000 yards in his final year. He scored like 14 touchdowns. It was, and that 2018 team, although everyone talks about 2019, that 2018 team was a lot of fun, and they were a very, very good team. They beat 4 top 10 teams. They beat Georgia, came in undefeated, number 2 in the country, and LSU spanked them in Tiger Stadium. That was a lot of fun. And but yes, I do remember that because Nick said Joe changed the play, and it was wide open, 50 yards right up the middle.
Well, it's the first time it happened in 7 years, so that's why I think people were excited because I saw it. I was at that game, and I saw it. I was like, oh wait, he's changing the play. He has the freedom to do that. You haven't seen an LSU quarterback kind of take it by the haunches and see something and do something. So I think that's why it's like it kind of felt like a changing of the guard. And now you take from 2018 to 2025, and you've only had good quarterback play since then.
Well, to your point, Brandon Harris obviously had his ups and downs at LSU, but I remember doing an interview with him recently, and he told me that they'd get in the huddle, and Leonard Fournette would say, Brandon, please change the play. They know we're running the ball. Please change it. And he's like, I can't. I gotta run what they call. And we saw what happened there. So we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but it is amazing to look back and just look back during the Les Miles era, despite all the games he won and everything, the attitude towards offensive football and the refusal to change, even though in the biggest games, most of the time, you can't score points. That's a frustrating reflection for sure.
Well, I'll only bring it up because the 2011 team, like you saw, I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter, but like they put out one of the best teams of all time, 2011 LSU football, and every person on that 2011 team is like, play this at my funeral because, God, we should be remembered more. And they beat 5 top 10 teams. And like T-Bob talked about it. Will Blackwell talked about it. It's just crazy that they'll never get really remembered the way that they should because of, I guess, a little bit of consternation on offense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things went into that. There was the tragedy with the plane crash with Oklahoma State and them losing a football game on a Thursday night or Friday night that prevented
it was a Friday night at Fred's.
Yeah, they prevented them from going to the national championship, and LSU goes and beats Alabama in their own stadium and has to play them again. And but to your point, that team, I mean, you remember the Auburn game? I think they suspended Tyrann Mathieu, suspended like 3 or 4 pretty prominent guys, and it's like, we're going to put this guy Ron Brooks in, and he's going to have a pick six, and he's going to play like 7-8 years in the NFL. I mean, that's just how deep they were and how talented they were. You know,
who's
Garrett
this number 80 running down on kick?
Yeah, our boy Jarvis Landry. Oh. You know, I mean, he was. I don't know if he and Michael Clayton had a lot in common. They were wide receivers with like linebacker mentalities. I mean, they wanted to hit somebody. I mean, Clayton played safety in the Cotton Bowl against Texas at the end of 2002 and made some big hits. And Jarvis was the same way. He'd hustle down on those punts and just destroy people. So that was before he was making the one-handed catches and everything. But yeah, and then was it Kadron Boone? He was great on special teams. Another wide receiver who hustled down making. No, I'm sorry.
James Wright.
James Wright. That's who it was. Yeah.
Got drafted.
Yep.
With one catch at LSU.
Well, Jamar Chase, I think, or Jamar Chase's dad said, why, like, I think Jamar said, Dad, why am I going to LSU, or why should I go to LSU? They don't really throw the ball all that well. And he said, well, they've got the best defensive backs in the country. You'll go up against them at practice every day, and that'll make you better. So,
or you can play defensive back at LSU.
Maybe, yeah. I'm sure he could have.
Well, JD, we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for joining us every Wednesday, and we'll talk again soon.
Real quick before I go, I just want to let everyone know, please come out to Catering Reunion 3 to benefit Red Rock and Blue this Saturday, August 9th at the Texas Club. We've either, between what we've sold and what sponsors have gotten, I think about 500 tickets are gone, and that's a big place, about a 1,400 capacity. We're expecting a big crowd, so if you want to be there, get your tickets now. Come out and join us. All of the proceeds will go to benefit Louisiana military charities like Blue Star Moms of Louisiana, support our war heroes, Gulf Coast veterans. We do a lot to try to get back to our charities, and we had a great softball tournament. Big announcement, we're moving the tournament next year into the spring. We're getting out of the summer and the sweltering heat, and next year's Red Rock and Blue softball tournament will be April the 17th through the 19th at Oak Villa, so we appreciate Breck working with us on that to make that happen.
There you go. Well, make sure everybody go get your tickets, and April 17th through 19th, put it in your calendars. We appreciate you, JD. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, Noah. Thanks.